Aloha, and welcome to another edition of A Better Day. I'm State Senator Sam Slom, and for the next half hour, I hope you'll join us because hopefully we'll have an interesting and informative program for you. And I've got two really special guests that are be coming up in just a few moments. But hey, here we are in April. We're moving towards the close of the 28th state legislature. We end on Thursday, May 5th. But during this month of April, we're going to have our second crossover on April 12th. And then we get positioned for conference committees and, you know, that last gasp to see what bills are going to pass and what bills aren't going to make it. Well, since the beginning of the session back in January, we've had a lot of discussion about all kinds of bills. And many of them have fallen by the wayside as we had our first crossover. The Senate has just been finishing up on House bills, the House on Senate bills. We've had a number of governor's appointees that we have advised and consented to in the Senate. And we've got a number of constitutional amendments which likely will pass, which means that they go on the ballot this November. And you get to decide whether you like them or not. And there will be some information about what the bills or what the con-cons are about, what they do, and whether you like them or whether you don't like them. Look, we started off talking about homelessness, and guess what? We're still talking about homelessness. Some people say we've made some progress. Other people say, well, we just shifted people from one street to another. We put some in shelters, but most don't want to go in shelters because they don't want the structure, they don't want the form, they don't want the rules. They want to be on their own. We still haven't learned properly to deal with the homeless in terms of the different kinds of homeless we have. Those that are mentally ill, those that are veterans, those that are sick, those that just want to be out on the street, those that want to do criminal activities or want to do drugs. So you can't treat the homeless as one group because they're not. We're making some progress, but I got to tell you, you are spending a lot of money doing this, over $150 million so far. Some of it into housing, some of it into mental health and other services, but a lot of it going to this group of people. And when you have that kind of money going there, that means that that money can't go for, say, education or for other activities. So it's always a question of money. And we're studying the supplemental budget, the governor's supplemental budget, which the governor sent to the House. The House, they played with it a little bit, made a couple changes, but actually increased it. We have it over in the Senate for our action. It will go into conference committee and then finally be decided upon in April, the end of April, early May. You still have an opportunity to talk to your legislators, to let us know how you feel about particular bills. Most of the hearings are already done, but let us know and keep our feet to the fire. If there's something that you want to get a position on, then ask us about it. By the way, open government and transparency has been an issue again this part of this session, and I'm pleased to say that my office, as always, has stressed transparency and openness, and we have done that. We have been the most open office in the state capitol. We've provided information to the Associated Press and to Common Cause and to other organizations that want to find out more about what we're doing. And I think that's the right of every citizen, because after all, remember, you're paying for us. You're paying for everything that we do. You're paying for our staff, for our office, for our materials and all that. By the way, I want to, on a personal note, want to take a moment and thank all of you that sent me good wishes and all that. I had a little medical thing that happened last month. It was a little thing because I do it once a year. Secret, don't tell anybody. Just to get sympathy of my 24 majority members. And I did. They were very sympathetic and very helpful. That's why I enjoy being in the state Senate. And again, for those of you that may be new to this series, the reason we call this program A Better Day is because, yeah, you can have a new day, you can have good beginnings, you can have all that. What you really want and what you deserve as taxpayers in Hawaii is a better day. And I know that even though the unemployment rate continues to go down, because a lot of people aren't looking anymore for jobs, or they have several part-time jobs, it's still a struggle out there. So you have earned a better day. And to the extent that we in the legislature can make it either a better day or a worse day with higher taxes and fees and restrictions, you let us know, because you're our bosses. You're our master, and we're the servants. Don't ever forget that. A lot of people get the impression that we're all powerful down here. We're not. And even I, who serve on all of the Senate committees, if I don't learn something in a given hearing or a given day, it's not been a good day. And you teach us. So come on down here, find out what's going on, keep our feet to the fire. Don't give up. Don't get frustrated, okay? All right, that's our message. As I said, we've had a number of bills that we've gone over, not to forget marijuana, too. Marijuana is still pumping along with the advisory group and with the 59 applicants for 16 dispensaries. And by the way, I had joined in the support of the Honolulu Star-Advertiser when they went after the governor and the Department of Health for not releasing the names of who's going to be on the committee to select among these 59 applicants and what the criteria are going to be. Now, the health department, the very last day before the lawsuit was actually filed, they said they would provide this information, but as of today's program, we still don't have that information, and we have to, because you have a right to know who the people are, what the criteria are, who gets picked. Apparently, it's important to some people that they keep a secret. But if we're really talking about transparency and we're really talking about accountability, then that's what we have to do, okay? So that's our little message for today. Now, I'm really happy to introduce two young people who are terrific. They are part of the Senate minority. They've been working since January. Both of them are just working during the Senate or during the session. But each of them has a very interesting background story, and we'll find out what they like and what they don't like so far. So first of all, let me introduce Colleen Garrett,
Hi.
who is with us. And Colleen is a university student, and we're going to find out more about her. And Joshua Greig. And both of them have been helping us. And come on, Colleen, give it up. Give us a little Garrett 101. Tell us your background.
I grew up here in Hawaii.
Yeah.
I am born and raised in Kailua. I live in Makakilo now, so I make the commute a lot of times. I love the west side, though. It's beautiful. I am a University of Hawaii political science undergraduate student, currently a senior now, and I am...
When are you going to graduate?
Spring 2017.
Okay.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Okay, got it.
And then hopefully after that, I'm hoping to go into either grad school for political science, maybe studying international relations, and then I'm also considering law school.
Why did you pick political science in the first place?
I initially went to Leeward Community College after I graduated from Kapolei High, and I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. And then after taking a few introductory courses, I realized this was kind of my fit. I was really intrigued by the things that we study and the different kinds of interactions that occur within that single subject. It's more than just politics. It's kind of a nice conversion of history, psychology, American studies, you name it. I love it.
And why did you apply to work at the state capitol during this session?
I was initially an intern in the fall of 2015, and I loved my time with the Lieutenant Governor's office, and I wanted to continue my time with the legislature.
You're a glutton for punishment then,
Yes.
huh? more, give me more of it.
Like, ready for the challenge,
Yeah.
give me session. So I wanted to see a different side of Hawaii, and I know that the Republicans...
Have you?
Yes, I have.
Okay,
I believe I have.
we'll get into that in a minute, okay?
Yep.
All right. Okay, let's talk to this young fellow, though, Joshua Greig. Josh, what's your background?
Well, I was born here, raised here, lived here all my life.
See, you both look like you were born here. You have
yes.
that native look, right?
Right?
Oh, yeah.
The hair.
Walk around in our loincloths.
Yeah, right.
But I spent most of my time in Hawaii Kai, but also was raised in Laie, where we have a house there. I enjoy doing yard work and physical labor, actually.
Well, that makes one of us. Yeah, okay.
And I came to your office because I see the good work that you do, and I wanted to help do that, because you really are the best senator here.
Oh, you're just saying that because it's true. No. Thank you. You've got a lot of interesting things, though, in your background, and you serve on the Kuli'o'o Neighborhood Board.
I do. That started when there was a try to build some homes that were going to block our hiking trail to the back of Ainahaina. And so I came up, and there was a lot of lies being disseminated, and so I tried to correct those because they just weren't true. And then that started my interest in the neighborhood board, and then I ran and campaigned and walked around the entire...
Are you the youngest member of the board? You are,
I am,
aren't you?
yes.
Yeah, and that's one of the 5 boards that I have per month, and I noticed that you are one of the board members that speaks up. You ask questions of the people that appear there, and I think that's great. I mean, it's one thing to be on a neighborhood board, which serves a good purpose, but it's another thing to ask questions. And you know, I'm the kind of guy that I like to ask questions in committees and all that. But too many people are reticent. They don't ask the questions that need to be asked or need to be aired. So I congratulate you. You do that. What else are you interested in?
Well, I I like restoring cars, classic racing. I just got a boat, so hopefully I'll go sailing.
Oh, you can spend a lot of time restoring that. I know from past experience.
I certainly have.
And what do you want to do when you grow up?
Well, right now I'm studying business and fashion design at HCC and KCC. Business because I want to know how big CEOs manage people and run things. And then fashion because there's a lot of money to be made in it. And it's nice to have style, and it's a very classy, clean industry.
Well, there you go. And what do you do in your spare time, if you have any?
I work on my car,
Okay.
boat. I'm painting our house, so it keeps me busy.
That's great. That's great. So, okay, let me ask both of you. Let's start with Colleen. So you did spend, you spent a session with the Lieutenant Governor?
It was interim.
In the interim, okay.
During the interim.
And so then you went from the executive branch here to the legislative branch, and you went to the Senate minority, the emerging majority. You went to the minority, where we get an awful lot of people that come in and visit us. We have an awful lot of calls and all that. What do you like best about what you've been doing so far?
I really like the amount of input we get from all walks of life within our office, because our door is always open. I feel like it's to meet an amazing amount of people with all different perspectives and input within the legislature that I think really broadens my political science background. It's getting a little more hands-on approach.
And it hasn't scared you out of political science?
No.
It encouraged you more? Okay.
More exciting.
Yeah.
And I really like the amount of input that individual people can have. That's really empowering to see, and it makes me excited to be a part of the legislature and to basically see how people still have a very strong input and effect in their government. I think it reminds people that they still matter. And I like being a part of that.
You think you might run for office someday?
Oh gosh, no.
No.
I see what it does to you and how stressed you get, all 14 committees.
Hey, I said for 25 years, no, not me, not ever. So don't say ever,
Right.
particularly when you're young and all that.
I don't
How many
like it.
committees do you cover?
Just one.
And that is?
Hawaiian Affairs.
And what are some of the issues that you've gotten involved with so far this session?
Really been following the transfer of lands within Hawaiian homes and how beneficiaries can pass that down to relatives. And so that's been changing a little bit, as well as treatment of kaho'olawe. It's really interesting to see where funds are going to come from and kind of who has an input and what agencies really affect that, because it is something that matters to not just Native Hawaiians but to all people of Hawaii, environmentalists, activists, natives. It's more than just a singular group's issue. I think it's really branching out and affecting a lot of people. It's great to see people come out and testify and really give a lot of emotion on things that they care about.
You've gotten an opportunity to meet quite a few people that have come through our office?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Any surprises? Any things that you thought you knew or thought you had an opinion on and that changed?
I didn't think as many Democrats would also come sneaking through to say hi and find common ground.
Yeah.
That's really probably like one of the most surprising things, that the party lines really aren't as clear-cut as people may think, that there's a lot of issues that can, cross over both and people can be equally passionate about. I suppose I'm also surprised by the amount of people that like to bring us goodies.
That's the good part, right?
Yep.
That's one of the good
We
parts.
have a lot of friends that come through.
I tell you, if you haven't put on 5 pounds during the session,
Yes.
you're not doing your job, right? No, this thing about, people make a big deal about bipartisanship and all. We look at our legislation from the standpoint, not from a political or party standpoint, but from, is it good legislation, number one? Are there things that need to be questioned or answered about? Because often there are. Either numbers need to be clarified or even found out. Oftentimes, I get very frustrated when people are testifying before a committee and you ask them a question, they don't have the background information, they haven't done some of the very basic information, and yet they want to pass a bill, which may cost the taxpayers, millions and millions or tens of millions of dollars over the years, and they don't have the foggiest idea. And part of the problem is because it's not their money. And to that extent, my colleagues and I, it's our responsibility to ask those questions as representing the people. And those answers really are not Republican or Democrat answers. And the bill or the changes should be for the best interests of the public, not only now, but also in the future. You've got to look at that. So it is interesting. And that's why I enjoy the Senate. That's why I've stayed around so long. That and the fact that they won't hear my term limits bill or things like that. Every year I introduce initiative, referendum, recall, term limits. This year, at least we got a hearing on initiative, but that's as far as it went, even though every person that testified in favor of it. But it didn't move out of the Judiciary Committee. And that gets frustrating, I know, for a lot of people. But I do enjoy working when you can work with somebody. We used to say across the aisle, but it's not even across the aisle, it's next door, right? And most people have the common good, the common interest in mind. There's a lot of talk about people feathering their own nest or ethics violations. If you want to talk about ethics, then you talk to the mayor of the city and county who's got a personal vendetta about the city ethics director. But that's another story for another time. But we do, I think, have strong ethics laws. We have strong campaign laws also, but we don't always enforce them. And what you learn here is that any law you've got, you can modify it, you can amend it, you can change it, you can forget it or waive it. So just because you have a law doesn't make it sacrosanct. And people are always telling us or asking us, pass a law, usually against their neighbor. They don't like something their neighbor is doing. So let's pass a law. The real trick is enforcing the laws that we've got right now, because we've got thousands of laws on the book. Okay, I'll put you on the spot. What do you like doing the least, or what do you like about the legislature the least?
Ooh,
so
really
many
late
to
in the
choose
day
from.
hearings.
Huh?
Late in the day hearings.
Late in the day hearings.
No, that's hard to pick out. I think because I'm learning so much, I can't really say that I dislike it. Maybe it's hard for me initially, and it's a challenge. First couple go-arounds, I was recently sifting through some GIA requests and kind of getting the format down and learning what information applies to what. That was a little bit more difficult for me. It was a new wealth of information that I had to adapt to.
Let's talk about that for a minute, because that's really important, and we just wrapped up GIA hearings a couple weeks ago. GIA, grant in aid. Now, years ago, before I was ever in the legislature, when I was still saying, no, 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 I was aware of GIA hearings. I even went to a couple of them. And there weren't that many organizations. But now we've got a whole day, morning through late afternoon, and sometimes it spills over. And we've got, over 100 organizations? Over 200?
275, if my memory serves me correct.
Over 275. And the part is, and the problem from my standpoint at least, in the beginning, you had a very narrow definition of who would qualify for a grant and aid. And it wasn't supposed to be a permanent thing, for one thing anyway. It was either to start them off, help them along in 1 year or something like that. Now we have many more, as you said, over 275, and we've got people that are dependent on taxpayer money. And they come in here, and in addition to that, you've got duplication. Before, you used to have maybe one organization that worked with children, one with mentally ill. Now you may have 4 or 5. And you've got organizations, including some private organizations, that want taxpayer money. And I stress this taxpayer money because when somebody gets a GIA, they come back and they thank all of us legislators. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I have to tell them, hey, don't thank us, because we don't have a dollar in this building that we give you. The only money that we've got is money that we take from your parents and from the taxpayers out there. They pay for everything. Now, the population of Hawaii is about approaching 1.4 million people.
Wow.
But there's only about 400,000 of that total that are taxpayers. The rest, because they're young or they're poor or they're disabled or they're exempt, they don't pay taxes. So 400,000 people, that's a real small pond. And every time we talk about things like GIAs or like tax increases, it's a small group of people that we're asking over and over and over again. So it's a big deal. And some of these GIAs, well, most of them are not going to get their money. That's the first thing, because I don't know what the total is, but it's billions of dollars. And that's in addition to the budget, and that's in addition to straight appropriations for, you know, different organizations and different things like invasive species or taking care of health or subsidies to hospitals and all that. So it's all about the money, but there's not that much money, and we legislators don't give a penny. It's all from the taxpayers.
Exactly.
So Josh, how about you? What committees do you cover? What are you involved with?
I cover water, land, and ag.
That's been exciting this year, right?
A lot of marijuana bills, a lot of water rights bills.
Yeah.
And then saving all the little sea critters.
Yeah.
It's interesting that the public immediately jumps to wanting to ban fishing in one area or swimming with animals in another area, when they don't realize that tourism is where our number one income is, and we can't simply ban everyone from swimming everywhere.
You know that I'm bad when it comes to banning anything. I'm not your poster child for that, because I don't think that bans are fair. I don't think that they work. A ban, you know, is on everyone, when usually you're trying to identify a problem, but you don't go after the cause of the problem. You just say, oh, let's ban it. Nobody will get to use it. And so the people that have been using it fairly and wisely and all that, they're the ones that lose out on that. And more we try to prohibit or ban or restrict.
Even before there's a problem.
Yeah, sometimes before there's a problem. That's right, yeah. So what have you learned thus far in this session?
Well, remember the first week or so, I went home thinking how trivial laws actually seemed, because they were really written by just ordinary people making ordinary decisions, and then it affected all of us. But then
they don't often use common sense either.
No.
Right?
No, a lot of the testimonies here say, and I thought most interesting was how they left big gaps for where the spending requirements they wanted to be just filled in later, as if it was a second thought.
How do you feel about the bills that we pass during the session and we blank out the amounts till we get to the very end? So nobody knows how much it's actually going to be.
I think it says a lot to how they want to operate.
Yeah.
How much they want to keep the regular public in the dark.
If you had your way, would you require that every bill had a specific amount in it?
Of course.
That's what we voted on?
If it required money, then it should have it.
It seems like just common sense, right? But we don't do it that way, because it's another way of manipulating the system and playing with those numbers till the very, very end. We have to pass the budget before we pass individual appropriation bills. But oftentimes we see that some people or some organizations are more favored or thought of more positively than others. What have you liked best that you've learned or that you've done?
All the free food.
Gee, it always comes back to that, Colleen.
The college
food,
students, of course, always agree on that, right?
Yeah. Well, that's right. But in terms of process, or in terms of what we've done?
I really like seeing what's happening on the session floor. It's amazing how everything goes and everyone votes, and it's a very clean process, really. It's also interesting how there are some senators who don't show up.
Yeah. And usually we have more discussion on the floor than we do in committees, although there are exceptions. But if I had my way, we would have more discussion, more transparency, and you know, I vote no a lot on bills, but I always try to explain why I'm voting no, number one, and number two, to give an alternative or an option. And I would like to see more of us do that, because not for me, but for the public. I think the public deserves to know, why is that guy, why is he opposed to it, or why does he support, you know, this overspending? By the way, we didn't even talk about taxes, and there's still major tax bills that are still floating through the legislature. And a reminder, nothing is dead until we bang the gavel on May 5th and close, turn off the lights and leave the place. But we have a sizable gasoline tax increase, a sizable vehicle weight tax that'll affect the cars that you're fixing, a sizable registration. And those three, which is a triple whammy for taxes, the city and county has the same taxes. And in fact, Honolulu increased theirs last year, but there's nothing to say that they can't do it again. What do you like the least about the process, or about what you've been doing?
The how they after the during the committee hearings, after they have all the testimony, where they turn off the mics and they discuss everything, and then they just propose their idea.
Oh, come on, we're just discussing sports scores and what kind of pizza we're going to order. And all
that should be more done in the open.
In the open, yeah. Okay,
So everyone knows what interests.
We talk a great deal about transparency, and definitely there's more than there was 20 years ago, but we could go a lot further. And I think the more open we have meetings and discussions and decisions, the better it is for everyone.
I think the increase of technology as well
Yeah.
will make much more available to groups that couldn't attend or couldn't be a part of the traditional
And
process.
particularly for the neighbor islands, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, we've got the technology, we've got the ability to do it. Well, look, I've enjoyed sharing our time with Colleen Garrett and Joshua Greig. Now get back to work and don't look for the free food. And we hope you enjoyed this too, and it gave you more of an insight of what some of our young people are doing down here at the Capitol. Come down and visit us. Our room is 214, doors always open. We'd like to see you. Remember, get involved and have a better day. This is Sam Slom saying thank you so much for joining us. Aloha.